It is so eye-opening how many videos there currently are and how many more videos are made every single day from previously dedicated hardcore Bethesda fans who never saw any faults about anything but Bethesda honestly ever did. Now saying that Bethesda is just dead, Bethesda is over, Starfield is abandoned, Elder Scrolls is gonna be bad, Fallout 76 is a joke, Fallout 4 better not even release. It is really eye-opening how many people are suddenly understanding how absolutely poor of a company, talentless losers Bethesda is. It is really, really eye opening. But again, boys, as I said last time, Bethesda is not a bunch of talentless losers. They have plenty of talent, of people who are uniquely bad at doing their job, okay? To be as bad as the average Bethesda employees is at making games, gaming, or any reason-related subjects, you need to be a talented retard, okay? You can't just be a normal autistic individual, okay? That's me and other people. But you need to be like a mega retard or something to work at Bethesda at this point. It is it is so funny, honestly.
By the year of 2023, it had been 12 years since fans had received a new Elder Scrolls title, 5 years since the trailer for the Elder Scrolls 6, and
Why complain? They're probably gonna release Skyrim Anniversary Edition 53 that you can buy for $120. Why complain?
8 years since a new offline Fallout game. It had been tough times for Bethesda enthusiasts who were ready for a new adventure. They would not receive a new title from either of those franchises, but all was not lost. Bethesda gave them something else, something new, something out of this world. Starfield, Bethesda's newest IP, set in the vast reaches of the galaxy. Players would have the ability to travel further than ever before. Todd Howard stated that this was by far Bethesda's most ambitious project to date.
16 times the detail, boys. That alone should make you buy the deluxe edition.
And he expected that fans would love it. As the days counted down to release, I couldn't have been.
You know what's my favorite part about the disaster of Starfield, by the way? Because with everything else, Bethesda has been pretty much like, no, we're right, the fans are wrong, we're smart. But with Starfield, I think Todd Howard understood. I think Todd Howard unironically got his eyes open. He understood how bad truly things are because before Starfield released, Todd Howard put his goddamn 5-2 face on everything. Everything, okay? He was doing so many interviews with so many mirror tricks where he didn't look like he's a midget, okay? But the chair size always betrays you, Todd Howard, okay? You can see how he's sitting and the chair is just gigantic compared to him. That's because he's 5'2" and is very ashamed of that. As everyone who is short should be. Short kings be kings somewhere else. In the afterlife, honestly, that's the best place to be a short king. Like the video, if you're a short king, this is gonna give you 1 inch. But whatever. After Starfield came out, Todd Howard just completely removed himself from Starfield. He did not want to have anything to do with that garbage. It's actually kind of funny because Todd Howard has never done anything like that before. This was a new thing.
Been more excited. This game had so much potential. It had the longest development time of any Bethesda game, and there was so much room for creativity that I couldn't wait to see what the studio came up with. And then it arrived, and it did not reach the hype.
Dude, when I saw the trailers for this, the small 0.1 second gameplay snips of this, I said this looks bad. This looks really bad. The enemies look bullet spongy. Everything kind of looks fucking boring. The graphics are not good. You can literally see things nonstop clipping. And those videos got like only a 50% upvote ratio. People hated me for saying the truth that Starfield looks like it's shit. And it was. As always, give me time, and time will prove me right. I have. The only thing I have been wrong about in the last 2 years of me predicting shit about gaming was saying that Clair Obscur looks like an average game that's probably not going to be anything too dreadful, but not also terrible. Not also great. It was. It was great.
It was not the Fallout in space fans had expected. Now, that being said, the game does have a pretty strong following by some people who love Bethesda's new design of a endless.
That is a lie. We've recently looked at SteamDB for Starfield. Even hardcore fans are already finding closets and leather belts to stop the pain.
Open world to explore. People who have stood by the new project and defended the company against all criticism. They saw the magic within the game, and they stuck around. A year later, and Bethesda would release the game's first DLC, Shattered Space, which once again was received negatively. And then in the
I have extensively talked about Shattered Space. I'll give you the quick rundown. The average expansion for a game is expected for roughly 25% plus people to return to it. Shattered Space was given to people for free, and less than 2% of people decided to return to Shattered Space. It was. If Starfield itself wasn't an eye opener, the disaster of how bad Shattered Space, rightfully by the way, was, definitely should have been.
most recent Xbox showcase, Starfield fans waited with anticipation for any new news about the
All
game.
5 of
New
them.
DLC, new content, gameplay changes, and yet there was nothing. Nothing but Fallout 76 updates and new microtransactions. This would make it almost a full year since the game had any type of updates, despite Bethesda saying that they were fully committed to the game in the past. So, what happened? Has Bethesda abandoned Starfield for good? And if so, why?
For good, no. But it is abandoned. Bethesda's kind of keeping it on life support until they figure out, okay, we kind of need to do something with this. I think maybe we get another expansion in like 2 or 3 years at Starfield 2.
Well, in this video, I will attempt to answer that very question. So without further ado,
Hopefully with Black Scientist Woman again.
let's get into it. So the first thing we have to discuss is the game's issues. To start with was the new design. Prior to this game, Bethesda had always handcrafted their worlds and filled them with unique content scattered throughout. Skyrim had over 200 locations and Fallout 4 over 250. When exploring these worlds, new locations were around every corner. What was key with this design is that almost every location had something unique to offer, whether it was a new dungeon, a new event, or even a side quest. Players were rewarded for their curiosity. Essentially, if the map had unexplored terrain, if the player went there, they were almost guaranteed to find something new. This had been Bethesda's model since Morrowind, and each game only improved in quantity and appearance. Many expected the same here, but Bethesda opted to change the formula. Instead of one large handcrafted map with unique locations across, the world.
By the way, I said this. This was also one of my predictions about Starfield. I said, Bethesda is so fucking shit. And this was provable from the story of Starfield, how absolutely ass it was. How absolutely boring, dull, and dreary it was. That even if, I said this, even if Bethesda handcrafted all the locations, the game would still be ass. Because there's not a single person who can actually make a game left in this abysmal, god-forgotten region of existence. And, well, Shattered Space comes out, and guess who's again proven right? That's right, it's me, your boy. Because Shattered Space was fully 100% handcrafted, and the experience was shit. Okay, we got a bunch of people who can legally stab each other and steal their shit without any consequence, and who tattooed their eyelids because reasons and never explained why that's a thing that they even do. Okay, and you become their God's chosen champion in the first 2 minutes of encountering them. I wish I was making the stuff I just set up, but you know this is true.
world would be procedurally generated. With over 1,000 planets to explore, players could fast travel to the locations and the game would generate a grid. It would place plants, minerals,
Fast traveling is one thing, but on average, if you're a professional, you still need to go through 3 load screens to fast travel to a location. That's bad. Yes, and if you were not a professional in Starfield, if you did not literally spend 20 minutes trying to figure out the least load screen intensive way to fast travel, you probably encountered 5 to 6 load screens. Yes. Yes. There's a reason we call this a load screen simulator.
minerals, landmarks, and dungeons automatically. Each time you visited the same planet, the grid would be different. This actually hurt Bethesda because, first of all, the planets looked bland and lacked character. Rather than feeling like real worlds, they felt very generic. The game would then scatter dungeons and landmarks randomly, and players would have to walk to them, and the distance to get there was huge. It would take nearly 10 minutes to walk to one location. In previous Bethesda titles, that wasn't a problem, because it wasn't usually about the destination, it was more about the journey on the way. The player would pass by forgotten ruins, caves that begged to be explored, and random NPC events that demanded attention. It made the player want to walk everywhere because there was so much to see. In Starfield, there is nothing in between locations, so it becomes incredibly boring. The long walk is just boring, and there's nothing to see in between. What made this worse is that when you finally reached your destination, the dungeons placed were drawn from a bank of pre-built ones, and that bank was very small, although there's
Oh, he actually has. He knows my argument. If you have entered 3 caves in Starfield, you know how every cave is going to look for in the future. If you have been in 5 buildings in Starfield, you know exactly how every single room for the rest of the game is going to look. There's just not enough RNG tiles to make things. Plus, they're all the same color, they're all the same layout, they're all the same style, they're the same. They're literally the same.
There's no specific number. I believe there's approximately 20 dungeons in total, spread across 1,000 planets at random. And even then, the dungeons look almost identical. As a result, you often run across the same locations on every planet. This ruined the experience, as not only was the journey now dull, but the destination...
And my favorite thing was about the fact when you get to the artifact, the glowy shit in space that doesn't make actually any sense. It was often that, you know, this anomaly of literally levitating shit was right there next to a research outpost, and no one gave a shit that that's there. You know, still unexplored. No one knows what's that. What is that gravitational anomaly there? Who knows, bro? We're just mining oil, space oil, in fact.
Had no guarantees of being worth it. Players were no longer guaranteed unique experiences for exploring, so many quickly stopped after a handful of planets. During ship travel, players couldn't actually fly to planets and had to use a fast travel screen, which then made space exploration boring and redundant. This was the game loop, and as I stated earlier, Bethesda games were known for offering incredible exploration. The writing often sucked, the graphics were subpar, and the gameplay was usually very dated. Their games were often inferior to a lot of other games in many ways, but when it came to the open worlds, they were still unmatched. Skyrim still has one of the most amazing open worlds ever, even today. So what happens when you remove the core of a Bethesda game, their strongest point?
Well, when you remove the core of Bethesda game, you still have a Bethesda game because Bethesda games are soulless trash.
Well then, you pray that the writing will be better for this entry. It was not. Emil Pagliarulo.
That's an overstatement, okay? This is the main writer, by the way. He went on multiple Twitter tirades of calling people idiots because they did not understand his god levels of writing.
Is Bethesda's lead writer, and he has received criticism for years due to his poor writing in the past. Video here. Fallout 3's story was poor, Skyrim's was forgettable, and generally speaking, many admit the plotline and role-playing from Fallout 4 was Bethesda's weakest to date. In the past,
Definitely.
past, it didn't matter that the game's writing
I mean, there were some upsides to Fallout 4. It wasn't a diverse. I'll give Emil that much. I am personally a believer that Fallout 4 is better than Fallout 3. Okay, fight me.
was poor because the world's established lore held it up. In the past, Bethesda's weak storytelling was often propped up by strong existing lore. Skyrim's story may have sucked, but the lore of the Elder Scrolls, written by Michael Kirkbride, was incredibly strong. The races, the lands, the factions, the history, gamers love this world and find it so interesting. It made up for Emil's poor writing. The same with the Fallout universe. Written by Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarski, it had incredible worlds, factions, super mutants, locations, brands, companies, the vault tech. This lore made up for Fallout 3 and Fallout 4's poor writing. Starfield had no lore, and Bethesda had to make all of it up. Now, Emil has 3 rules
And they did it in the worst way possible.
he follows when writing, which include
KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Write what you know.
and
Great games are played, not made.
Bethesda had an entire galaxy at their disposal.
The guy's a literal fucking joke, by the way.
They could invent alien civilizations, wild cultures, planets with rich histories, literally limitless potential.
Yeah, and instead of limitless potential, they chose to go to the Steam forums and copy-paste ChatGPT responses to people who were calling this game boring and say, but the real astronauts, when they were landing on the moon, had fun. Did you think they were bored? So you have no reason to be bored because you're a real astronaut. Oh god. It's just so painful but funny.
But what did we get? Space cowboys.
Hell
Space
yeah!
pirates.
Hell yeah!
Farmers who live on the moon
Hell
who have
yeah.
southern accents.
I was out planting in the fields when I saw some men approaching. They look like soldiers with uniforms and weapons and such.
It's
Shit,
just
boy.
Earth culture reskinned for space. No aliens, no bizarre cosmic mysteries, just humans in space doing what we do
Listen, Cowboys in Space are honestly better than any single piece of House of Varun lore, okay?
on Earth now. That's right what you know, taken to the extreme. Emil Pagliarulo stuck with the familiar. He put in Raiders, Spacers, he put Starbucks in, Terrabrew, and Wells Fargo, Galbank, and that familiarity made the writing feel unimaginative. If you play Mass Effect, watch Star Wars, or any other space exploration plotline, there is so much lore. That's why fans love them so much.
Well, not any longer, to be honest.
How Bethesda only landed on humans in space is insane. Even the free hand-built towns felt just like what we've seen already. In fact, they looked older than the civilizations we have today. Add to this, the main story and the side quests were incredibly poor. Some side quests include, please go and fetch me a coffee from Terrabrew. This is an actual faction quest line. One quest had you go and get a root beer, so you met someone in one galaxy, and they said, hey, if you go 4 galaxies that way, you can find a bar in a town and they sell this root beer, please bring it back. In one side quest, you had to recover a debt for the bank. To find this person, you literally traveled to a moon where he was living in a shack to escape debt collectors. Literally, he lived on the moon by himself in a shack because he couldn't be bothered paying back $200. This was so unimaginative, and as a result, the world was so boring. Not just this, but Bethesda moved away from handcrafted side quests, leaning into Radiant computer.
Okay, listen. To summarize how bad Starfield honestly kind of is, you hope that everything is AI generated in this game because you don't want to believe that someone was actually fucking malnourished in the brain enough to come up with this crap and say it's good. Okay? You're kind of hoping that this is AI making it, and the funny part about this is ChatGPT has made better Starfield quests than Starfield.
generated quests that never end and lack any storyline. As a result, you have a game where you're traveling through procedurally generated dull worlds filled with copy-paste dungeons, completing radiant objectives in a universe with no interesting things to find. So not only was the exploration Bethesda's worst to date, but the writing was probably the worst as well. Add to this, the game had glitches, long loading times, boring dialogue. Just quickly, having an NPC stare lifelessly at the player whilst talking slowly is incredibly dull. What they'll basically do is the person will give you the objective and your option is either to say yes I'll do it, or you can ask 10 questions about the objective they've just given you. Things like, what's this all about? Why can't you do it? Why should I do it? And basically it doesn't offer you anything for asking these questions. If I asked you to like this video and your only options were yes or why should I subscribe? What is subscribing? Where are you from? It's not useful, it's wasted time. Bethesda bragged about how much dialogue this game had, but most of it was...
It doesn't have to be useful, I would honestly say. It just has to be interesting, which it clearly is not.
Useless. New Vegas rewarded you for asking questions with new objectives and new skills.
Vegas didn't even reward you for that in a lot of cases, but the questions were just questions that you, as a fellow human who perambulates on his frontal legs, would ask. Okay? But no, not in Starfield. None of the shit you would ask in Starfield felt even reasonably normal.
In Witcher 3, if you asked additional questions, it opened up new paths in the quest and new dialogue options. You have to make these questions serve a valuable purpose, otherwise you're just asking questions for the sake of it. Having a lot of dialogue in a video game isn't a bragging right unless it's actually useful. Then you have the persuasion minigame, which absolutely ruined immersion and it felt extremely childlike. And then you had the digipick lockpicking, which is worse than previous used minigames from Fallout and Skyrim. So all in all, the game let fans down and had many weaknesses. It also showed Bethesda's identity crisis. If you look at Morrowind, it was an incredibly deep RPG, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, Kingdom Come Deliverance is propaganda.
Decisions matter, role-playing was important, and player freedom was massive. You could shape the world with your actions. There were no invincible NPCs. Sure, Morrowind had poor graphics, no voice acting, and it was difficult to figure out, but it knew what it was, a hardcore RPG. Over the years, Bethesda have moved from this to make a more user-friendly, broader, appealing open-world game. So you decide how the story will unfold in Morrowind, and in Fallout 4, the story is already set. Your character is the mum or dad of Sean. You are either a lawyer or in the military, and you hated Kellogg and wanted to find your son. So although the game gave you dialogue options, often it didn't matter which you chose as the outcome was the same. So they moved from an RPG setup to a story-driven open-world action game. Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk follow this pattern, but their writing is incredible. Their side quests are memorable and their games leave an impression. The problem for Bethesda...
Remember when we watched that video that compared Starfield's dialogue to Cyberpunk's dialogue, and it was like, holy shit. One cannot even honestly be called dialogue at this point, considering how bad it is.
Games leave an impression. The problem for Bethesda at the moment is they're not really an RPG game, as they've removed player freedom, and there is minimal to no role-playing options. But
at this moment, Bethesda honestly just should kind of give up and say, oh yeah, we're just looking for the new modern audience. Do the classic, oh, let's forsake the... You know, pull a Dragon Age Railgun. Forsake the previous tens of millions of fans you had in the hopes of acquiring maybe 20 woke retards. Okay? Do that. Okay? Bethesda has nothing to lose at this point.
But then, the writing team can't compete with studios like Larian, Warhorse, or CD Projekt Red, so they end up just being a poorer version of both.
Larian is the only one that has a future. A Warhorse is gonna die, hopefully, because it if you don't know the extensive amount of lies Warhorse has actually told us, no, the game is not based. It's fucking shit. It's literally small hat propaganda. And I mean this very literally, by the way. At the end of the game, well, I'm not going to spoil if you don't know what's happening, but yes, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you can look up. I talk about this. I talk about this. But yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is literally propaganda. And, well, CDPR Red is, I believe there's no future for that company. I mean, I guess the first thing that we're going to be actually seeing is Edge Runners 2, and I think that's going to be bad. Then we're going to probably be seeing The Witcher 3 expansion that shows how Ciri became the new Witcher, which is autistic, and the absolute girl boss to end all girl bosses. And then we're gonna probably get something for Cyberpunk that, completely kills everything. CDPR is dead.
Both. The only thing they had up on those studios is that their open worlds were the best in the industry. Starfield removed that, and when you consider that No Man's Sky is a real thing and does everything Starfield does but better, you have to ask then, who is this game for? Whatever Bethesda do next, they need to decide which type of game they want to be, and if that's story based, then they need to get new writers. Anyway, for all the reasons I've stated, fans quickly bounced off the game. Unlike their previous games, there was no reason to stick around. Once you played for around 20 hours, you'd seen all the game had to offer. They released updates with buggies and then the shattered space, but they didn't fix the game's core issues. As a result,
Todd Howard and the Xbox Phil Spencer dude said, "Oh man, Fallout actually not Fallout. Starfield would have been such an absolutely amazing hit. Shattered Space would have been the next big thing if we actually just saved buggies for the expansion. That was the make or break, and we put buggies in just as a default update. Now, if not even kidding, that's what they believe. That's what those idiots believe. If they just save the buggy that no one wants to use because it's ass and trash, or the goddamn Shattered Space expansion that somehow Starfield would be resurrected from the dead."
player count dwindled until there was almost no one playing. But Skyrim hasn't had an update in years and people still play that. Why? Well, mods. Todd Howard stated that Starfield was a modder's paradise because of how much room there was to fill in. Empty planets were there for modders to fill in the gaps. But unfortunately for Bethesda, the modders left as well. Due to the game's fundamental design issues,
when they added the mini map, you know what I think was hilarious? I don't know if you see this, but when you zoom out enough, you know what you start noticing? I'll draw it for you. Give me a second. I'm not dead. Relax. You're gonna see this, okay? You're gonna see exactly this. What is this? Well, it's a grid, and when the grid intersects with itself, they put like a fucking rock there. That's how poorly the RNG maps are. Okay, when you zoom out enough, you're gonna see this pattern be the whole of the map. You're gonna just see that it maybe deviates slightly going in the to the left or right sometimes, but that's pretty much it. It is hilarious.
And the lack of player count, modders just couldn't make up for the lack of content. It was hard to mod and there was no one there to actually play the mods. As a result, the game received very little growth. Bethesda had grown dependent on modders and expected them to help fix the game, but when that didn't arrive, there was no reason to stick around. Now, Bethesda have often stated that they are proud of Starfield and that they see it going on for many years, but the truth is, the damage is done. Starfield was Todd Howard's dream come to life, and that's good that he did it, but unfortunately, many gamers didn't share in the same dreams. As a result, Bethesda came to a crossroads. They had a small but dedicated fanbase of Starfield, and they wanted more content, but as the saying goes, If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. At this point, every Fallout Day and Xbox Showcase is Bethesda promoting new Fallout 76 microtransactions.
Based. What else are you gonna do with 76? It's horrible. Anyway, that was ABV Gaming. 10 out of 10. Oh, bye.